All right, let's let's put this into vibrate in advance so that I don't have to listen to myself, listen to my thing go off. And it is time to talk about Lspr. It is the oldest, meanest, and toughest rally according to its own publications and advertising. Oldest is objectively verifiable. Meanest is I don't even know what that means. And toughest? Well, I suppose there's probably several years of data on completion rates, and we can compare that between this and all the other rallies that exist, but I'm not going to bother digging into that, although I will simply point out that when you open the route book for Lspr and realize you've got, an 11-mile stage with like 2 3s and everything else is a 4, 5, and 6, and in 100 pages of Gemba there are 0 1s. Compare that to something like Over Mountain, where you go through 100 pages of Gemba and there are 0 6s and everything's 1, 2, 3, occasionally a 4. In fact, actually the ratios I would have to say are almost exactly inverted. The number of 4, 5s, and 6s total through 2 days of Over Mountain is probably equal to the number of 1, 2, and 3s on 2 days of Lspr. So it certainly didn't seem tough when you looked at it. Some of the stages were a little bit rocky and rough. Although really, after coming through Over Mountain, was it really that much worse? Over Mountain's pretty rocky stages. Some of these stages were absolutely beautifully smooth. So with those preliminaries out of the way, we can start the discussion. Just getting to Lspr was a little bit of a challenge. Well, not really a little bit of a challenge. It was simply unusual. Phil drove, but he didn't bring the Mazda, and after we banged it up a little bit at Over Mountain, we weren't allowed to bring the WRX out, because technically that's Phil's wife's car, Karen. So Karen wouldn't let us bring it out to play. Phil was talking about bringing his truck, which is an F-250 with extremely vague steering, as is typical of, Super Duties and 3/4 and 1-ton trucks. So instead, his friend, who he had just loaned his truck to drive to Florida, loaned us his Jeep Gladiator, which also has recirculating ball steering, which is not particularly precise, but we managed to write some perfectly adequate notes in it, so I can't say much about that. It did turn out to be a little bit of a good thing, because we did not follow the directions from the hotel to testing that were provided. We were already out doing some recce, so we just plugged in the GPS, and it took us on these super sketchy county roads. I would not dignify them by calling them county roads. These are goat paths. There were places where the trees were just outside the mirrors on both sides, and there were even branches smacking us in the windshield. I really should have taken more footage there. But in either case, Phil made it up on some kind of balding tires, which was going to make driving home interesting for him since there was so much rain coming in. Whereas I made the decision that because it was going to be like 12 or 14 hours for me, I'd rather suck start a Glock than drive that in one fell swoop, which means breaking it up into 2 6 or 7 hour stints followed by a hotel stay in between. And by the time I did that, and with all the extra cost of renting the hotels, it was actually cheaper to fly. And then I realized by the time I checked baggage, because you can't fit everything you need for a rally in a carry-on, I was going to have to check a couple bags, and by the time I did that, for an extra $70 I could fly first class. So realized that Sean, our teammate, was sitting across the aisle in one row up from me, which was good because we ended up giving him a ride. So flew into Marquette Sawyer Airport, which is an XB-52 base, for what it's worth, and started our time in Marquette with no problems. Recce was fine. There's really not much to say about that. Rode some stages, went over Jembas for a few others. Discovered that the roads in places were going to be super smooth and wide. The FF stage on the second day was jokingly called the Finnish Freeway because it was probably wide enough for, maybe not quite 4 lanes, but definitely wide enough for 2 logging trucks to pass abreast with plenty of room on both sides. That was an extremely fast stage. Other stages had some rocky areas, but by and large, pretty smooth roads, not a lot of sharp turns. Lspr is a little unusual in that its first day is actually not really a first day. There's a park expose, and theoretically there should have been a ceremonial start on the day before any competition starts, so that was kind of unusual, but not really a big deal. You just go there, hang out, and leave. It was one of those things where it's actually cool enough weather now that it's the fall in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan that we were kind of happy to have the race suits and actually throw on the long undies because it was comfortable, not because I was worried about fire, because we weren't crashing. We weren't driving, for that matter. So we started the first day of competition. At testing the prior day, or I guess 2 days prior, we had made some tweaks to the rear suspension to get us a little more settled because we were finding that the road was extremely loose to the point where I could basically get the car to rotate simply by breathing on the pedals. Little exciting when that happens. Of course, we don't have as much footage as we would like from day 1. We are trying out a new camera system, which is actually one of the 360 cameras. So basically a 4K camera sandwiched on either side of a, well, I guess it's the bread with the camera body sandwiched in between it. So we should be able to get 360 degrees of video around the mount on the dashboard. Unfortunately, it uses quite a bit more battery than a regular action camera, so we ran out of footage, or ran out of battery like halfway through the second stage of the day, so we don't have as much footage as we would like, but we'll deal with it. But we started the day with a quick little stage called Al's Playground. It had an old name and then was named in memoriam. Actually kind of a fun stage. I don't know if it's the truly toughest rally, but there were certainly people dropping like flies on this one. It was first stage of the day, and we're already moving up a couple places because people were having mechanicals, or in the case of Connor Martell, rolling on their roof. We finished the stage without incident, and we pretty much finished the whole day without incident. These were pretty long stages, 8, 10, 12 miles, most of them. And one of the interesting things about day 1 is we actually had a couple of stages that we did not repeat, which is fairly unusual. Usually the morning stages and the afternoon stages are the same, and they didn't do that. They actually set up some extra stages, which was kind of fun. The only unfortunate part of the topography was that a lot of the UP is sand, probably brought there by glaciers or some shit. I think that's why they have some actual legitimate sand dunes on parts of the Great Lakes, and also down in central Toledo, which is kind of weird. There was a time where the ground was soft enough that the previous 70 of us driving over the road had made nice ruts, which actually generated a spot where we had to basically hit the artificial crown because we had dug so deep that there was just, we dug too deep and had to bounce up. I only got the car really out of control once, kind of slid it across the road, managed to recover at the last possible second. After the afternoon service, we ran Markey Lake a second time, and even got a surprise visitor partway through the stage. Some say that he can check tire pressure with the tip of his finger, and that he hates non-circuit races so much that he'll visit rally races across the world just to stare disapprovingly. Yeah, some crazy motherfucker in a full-on Stig costume hiked through the woods to just spectate there and stand with his hands on his hips Although apparently some people saw him with his arms crossed as well. I felt very judged. And we were kind of wondering if the final stage of the day, TP Tower running number 2, was going to be a night stage, even as scheduled. Because as scheduled, the first car was supposed to be on just a few minutes before 6 p.m., which us being at the bottom of the pack would have put us on after 7, and that's pretty close to sunset, so by the time we had all the delays, of course it ran as a night stage. And I have to admit that I'm a little bit proud of myself for this being only my second night stage. Once again, I lost a little bit of time, but not very much at all. About 1 second per mile, which is about what I lost at Overmountain in our night stage. And in fact, my peak speed on the night running of it was actually 4 miles an hour faster. So apparently I was committing to the straights. The first day went well, not only from our standpoint, but from a rally standpoint. The only stage we didn't get to drive was 7, and I no longer remember why that was, but I think it might have had something to do with unruly spectators. The only disadvantage to day 1 is, unless I've found it between the time I'm recording this narration and the time that I actually finish editing it, I don't have any audio from day 1, or at least I don't have any intercom audio. I remember running the recorder and kind of stopping it when we were at service, and I remember plugging it in, and I honestly don't know what happened. Just some sort of weird audio glitch, and in retrospect, I probably just plugged the microphone halfway in or something like that, so that it activated the mic but didn't actually make enough contact to deliver audio. We woke up Saturday morning for day 2 of competition with a 3-minute lead over the people behind us, and we were 3rd in class, which put us in the running for a podium, our first. All we have to do is finish for our second time, our first in the Fiesta. Cue ominous music here, right? We started the day with 2 Mile Creek, the longest stage of the day. Also pretty rough in spots. There were times when I wasn't able to go particularly fast because you just didn't have the traction. The front wheels hit a rock, bounce up into the air, and you're not getting any extra speed when they're in the air. The new 3D action cam apparently drained some battery overnight, even though it was fully charged when the battery went in there. Like most action cameras, I suspect it was probably listening for a phone to turn it on, because a lot of them can be turned on by your phone because they have a little Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection, and I suspect that's where most of the battery went. We didn't even get all of 2 Mile Creek recorded. So we ended up getting no footage of the second stage of the day, which is called Flat Rock. Very rocky stage. We're doing okay, no big deal. Coming around the corner, doing about 25 miles an hour according to the telemetry, when we hit a gigantic rock.
20, 5-9 is right.
Shit. Something broke.
We're blocked.
Okay.
We're blocked, yes.
I think if we'd hit it on the tire, it would have deflated our tire, and that would have been it, and we would have just had a flat. I think we actually might have hit it directly on the A-arm, snapped the A-arm, and yeeted the half shaft apart. Always the half shaft. Always. Just tore it right apart at the CV joint. I think if we had had one or the other, we might have been okay, but as it was just too much to come back from. We were basically blocking the road. People kind of had to go a little bit off the road to go around us. Eventually, sweeps came up, took our time card, pulled us out of the way, drove us to the end of the stage. And once again, we managed to not complete a rally. In this case, though, it had nothing to do with crashing off. Just, there's a rock in the line. So we didn't get to finish. The podium spot that probably should have been ours went to the Gibsons instead, so focus power, I mean, at least there's that. Good for them. Went back kind of dejected. And then just as a final kick in the balls, I'm sitting on the plane in Marquette, and we're not going. And service maintenance comes out, and they're like, hey, we have to replace a part. So they replace a part. We go out onto the taxiway, get onto the runway. We're not getting up to runway speeds. We go back, and apparently the maintenance replaced the part and it wasn't working, and they didn't figure it out until we were already about to take off. Which is kind of worrisome, but they did whatever they had to do and got me into Chicago way too late for my connections, so they rebooked me on a flight the next day, and I spent an unexpected night in Chicago. And that's just the way things are going. On the plus side, up until that rock, we didn't go off. I only had to really recover the car once when we went badly out of control. Made some pretty good times. Got some pretty good speeds on the straightaways. I think if it had been a little bit drier and I would have had more grip and more comfort with the level of grip that I had, we probably could have broken 100 easy. I had plenty of long straightaways. I mean, the longest straightaway in the directions was 500, and I think there was like a 175 after it. It was like 500 crest 175 or something like that. Like, there are places where you literally had, you know, half a mile or close to half a mile to just accelerate. But I guess that's rally. So we'll take what we can get. Kind of a disappointing season. What, 4 races, 0 finishes? 2 broken cars, 1 off. Well, 3 broken cars, 1 off. At least this one's easily repairable. I managed to effect a field repair by replacing the A-arm and the half shaft and drove it back to service, so it wasn't totaled unlike other Fiestas. In either case, we'll be back at it next year and kind of spend the winter licking our wounds and building up a race budget. Until next time. Karen wouldn't allow Phil to take it to, I suppose I should stop touching the microphone because that's going to generate a lot of audio problems, and also I should synchronize it.